curious, slightly unsettling tone. In Kanpur, there is a laborer named Mangal Vajpayee. His home has no electricity. He is not connected to a sewer system. He has complained to his local representatives for years and received nothing. Yet when asked about his condition, Mangal says he has no complaints. He says he would willingly eat mud or eat sand because he worships the Prime Minister as a literal god. He is not an isolated case. Across the country, voters have openly stated on camera that if the ruling party gave a ticket to a literal dog, they would vote to elect it. In a typical representative system, a lack of basic services usually leads to political consequences. But here, the expectation of accountability has been replaced by a form of devotion usually reserved for a temple. To find the mechanics behind this level of loyalty, we have to look at the specific narrative architecture that supports Narendra Modi's public image, 4 distinct pillars used to build his persona. When a population views a politician as a deity, they lose the ability to demand the basic human rights and functional governance a government is meant to provide. The first pillar is the origin myth. Throughout history, authoritarians have leaned on their working-class backgrounds to build political mythology. Benito Mussolini focused heavily on his status as a blacksmith's son to claim he rose from the masses. Narendra Modi employs this strategy by frequently citing a childhood steeped in extreme poverty, telling international magazines that he survived by selling tea on railway platforms. The evidence tells a different story. His childhood photographs feature him wearing tailored suits. Furthermore, the government's own railways minister recently acknowledged that Modi's father actually operated a railway canteen. A family that can afford to run a contracting business and send their children to school full-time does not fit the definition of extreme poverty. While his brand focuses on his humble roots, his policies have delivered staggering wealth to oligarchs like Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani. Over the last decade, corporate profits soared, while 800 million Indian citizens were left depending on 5-kilogram handouts of free grain just to survive. The government protects this image so aggressively that during major foreign summits, they have erected towering green screens to hide impoverished slums from international view. The second pillar frames him as the martyr. Modi repeatedly claims he abandoned his family and worldly attachments to serve the nation. Sympathetic media outlets have even compared this supposed sacrifice to Lord Buddha leaving his palace. But this martyrdom is highly selective. His own relatives admit they are given orders to stay away to maintain his lone wolf image. Yet, this same leader routinely finds the time to attend the lavish wedding receptions of Bollywood celebrities and billionaires. These first 2 pillars create an illusion of selfless, grassroots sacrifice. This narrative acts as a shield, deflecting criticism regarding his alignment with the nation's wealthiest elite. When the poverty myth wears thin, the machine relies on the third pillar, the ascetic. Modi frequently claims to be a fakir, a holy beggar who survived entirely on charity for 40 years. But this holy beggar rides in a 120 million rupee Mercedes. He wears designer sunglasses worth 140,000 rupees. He even boasted in an interview about using a digital camera in the late 1980s, years before they were commercially available to the public. The charity he supposedly collected in the 1990s also funded expensive foreign tours to Paris and the United States. We have documented examples of true political austerity. Former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri famously owned just 2 sets of clothes, repurposing them into handkerchiefs when they tore. In contrast, Modi is documented changing expensive, elaborate outfits 4 times a day during domestic visits. When asceticism fails, the final pillar is deployed, labeling him a divine savior. Political allies routinely call him God's gift to India and the literal incarnation of Lord Ram. To make this divine framing work, the machinery has actively altered traditional religious imagery. They replace the traditionally gentle, empathetic depictions of Lord Ram with angry, violent iconography to align ancient scriptures with a modern political agenda. If voters don't buy the divine infallibility, the IT cells activate a backup tactic. They edit clips out of context to frame opponents, particularly Rahul Gandhi, as incompetent. By dragging the opposition down, they ensure Modi appears as the only capable option by default. This ignores Modi's own unscripted moments, like suggesting cloud cover could block military radar signals, or that climate change is just humans losing their tolerance for heat. It also ignores his refusal to hold a single unscripted press conference or open debate in a decade. Framing a politician as a deity creates a shield that reclassifies democratic questioning as a religious transgression. In this environment, dissent is no longer a political disagreement. It is treated as an act of blasphemy. How does a single political operation maintain such a contradictory image across an entire subcontinent? The answer is manufactured omnipresence. This chart shows the financial reality behind the myth. Over 8 years, the government spent a staggering 64.91 billion rupees of public funds on advertisements. They paid over $7 million a day to place his face on petrol pumps and COVID certificates. But you cannot buy reality forever. In 2022, a record-breaking 225,000 citizens chose to completely renounce their Indian citizenship. The carefully marketed myth of a global peacemaker falls apart when confronted with protests like this. While claiming he stops foreign wars, he maintains total silence on the escalating violence burning within India's own borders. The proof that the brand is failing is the ruling party's own desperation. To secure victories, they are now recruiting notoriously corrupt politicians from the very opposition they claim to despise. Cults of personality thrive on silence and billion-dollar illusions. It is the duty of the public to pierce this facade, demand open debates, and vote based on reality to protect the Constitution. How does a single political operation maintain such a contradictory image across an entire subcontinent? The answer is manufactured omnipresence. This chart shows the financial reality behind the myth. Over 8 years, the government spent a staggering 64.91 billion rupees of public funds on advertisements. They paid over 7 million rupees a day to place his face on everything from petrol pumps to COVID vaccine certificates. But you cannot buy reality forever. In 2022, a record-breaking 225,000 citizens chose to completely renounce their Indian citizenship. The carefully marketed myth of a global peacemaker falls apart when confronted with protests like this. While claiming he stops foreign wars, he maintains total silence on the escalating violence burning within India's own borders. The proof that the brand is failing is the ruling party's own desperation. To secure victories, they are now recruiting notoriously corrupt politicians from the very opposition they claim to despise. Cults of personality thrive on silence and billion-dollar illusions. It is the duty of the public to pierce this facade, demand open debates, and vote based on reality to protect the Constitution.